What's going on? Welcome back to the Defending Your Faith podcast. Today I'm here with Christian Morris.
Yo.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yeah, so I want to tell you, Christian, so when I first started this podcast, you were the first name that came to mind.
What?
I was like, this dude would be perfect for it. He can bring his wisdom onto this podcast. And I was like, it'd be great. So I was just like, I got to get this dude on at some point. And I'm glad we finally get to do this, man.
That's crazy. Like I'm humbled that you thought of me. I really appreciate that, Jace.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool to be on here. You see so many different people doing podcasts now, and it's kind of like the new hip thing.
Yeah.
But they're cool, and I think they really work.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to be able to listen to things while you're working, especially in my line of work right now.
Right.
Sandwich making.
No,
It's you just throw an earbud in and you can listen to all sorts of stuff. So it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just like, with the new things, like podcast is a new thing. I think it's great that like Christians are adapting to that and making it, spreading the word through podcasts, you know what I'm saying? So like for the longest time, like when rap music got popular, and then we get these Christian rappers that are starting to spread the word through rap music. That's how we're appealing to this generation,
Really?
That's kind of how I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I think if something aligns with the word of God, or, especially with the words you speak, right? So with rap,
Mm-hmm.
If you're using rap to glorify God, then that is a good thing.
Exactly.
And if you use a podcast to glorify God, then that is also a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that's really great. And, especially in like today's day and age, I feel like you have to be engaging in some of these activities in order to reach people,
Mm-hmm.
right? The church is not supposed to be, it's supposed to be separate from the culture, right?
Right.
A lot of that, I think, is relating toward attitudes and behaviors, some cultural things as well, But as far as podcasts go, I think this was a really good idea. And, I commend you for starting it. It's awesome, dude. It's really cool.
I appreciate it, man. The love and support I've got from this, it's been phenomenal and just motivates me to keep going. So
Yeah,
we're just going to keep going until, we'll see what the Lord has next for me.
absolutely.
Or if he wants this to go even further. I don't know what his plan with it is yet, but yeah, it's been good, man. So today we're going to talk about leadership.
Okay.
And I saw, just for all y'all listening who don't know Christian, but the ones who do, they know how good of a leader he is, man. You're 2 years older than me. So like really when I started high school, I really looked up to you and saw how you were pursuing your faith with God. And I could just see the drive in you and, the want just to like get a deeper relationship with God. And I was like, I want that, I want to be like that. And so you were really a good example and a good leader for me for like just how to pursue a relationship with God. And so I really appreciate that a lot.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that, Jace. Yeah, I think I was thinking about this today, but I think that sometimes we can kind of get caught up in the religion of Christianity, which religion is not a bad thing, right? Going to church, going to worship, reading your Bible, these aren't bad things.
These are things God calls us to do.
But where's your heart in that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if your heart's not after the Lord, that can honestly be selfish in a way, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. One thing that I'm really trying to work on right now is probably like consistency, right? Because, you can be absolutely ablaze one week and then the next week, just be like embers, right?
Yeah.
So, one really big lesson I've learned this summer, really is how do I be consistent with God, right? Because when your walk is not where it should be, like everything else gets affected by it. You feel it in like your heart. It's like this thing in the back of your mind that kind of doesn't go away.
Yeah.
So I think pursuing Christ every day, right? Choosing to pick up your cross. That's super.
Pick up your cross daily, man. No, it's very
Way
important.
harder, you know. I mean, it's harder to do that than it is just to say it, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll get us started with some scripture and just kind of. So I want to talk about David and the leader. Like, obviously, he was a great leader, one of the greatest kings ever. But so I just got some scripture from 78 verses 70 through 72. He chose David his servant and took him from the sheep pens. He, meaning God, he brought him from tending ewes to be shepherd over his people Jacob, over Israel, his inheritance. He shepherded them with a pure heart and guided them with his skillful hands. So I think those are good verses. So I think God does appoint people to be leaders, some more than others. They have that within them. But I think there's room for everybody to be leaders in their own way too. So
Yeah.
obviously David was one of those appointed, and he was a great leader, great king. So, but
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think we're in a really interesting stage of life too. Sometimes we are the leaders, and then sometimes we're the learners, right? I mean, youth group, God has called, especially, you this last year, like, I feel that he called you to be a leader, and I think you did amazing in that role. Now you're being called into more of a learner, right? You're going to completely new environment, new school, which is absolutely amazing, but, it'll be different.
it will be.
And, yeah, it can be like both at the same time, so it's an interesting stage for sure.
I can find myself, especially at this stage of life, just flipping back and forth. Because, I'm working with these younger high school, junior high kids, but then at the same time, I'm with these older college, older adult dudes who I'm wanting to learn from. So
Right.
I feel like this is the age where you really just you're flipping back and forth, between learning from other leaders and being a leader yourself.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I think a lot of life is like that too, though, like you have people looking up to you and you get to kind of reflect some of the lessons that you learn. And then, you're looking up to others and they're reflecting lessons that they learned and so on, like.
Right. It's just a chain, man.
I think my dad is one of my biggest role models for sure, I feel like every time I'm with him, I learn something new.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't always want to, but it's always good. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And yeah, that kind of ties into Proverbs 11:14. Without guidance, a people will fall, but with many counselors, there is deliverance. And I feel, for me personally, I've had a lot of people, guide me and just be like a good example for me and a good leader for me, and just really helped me with my walk in my faith. There are several people that I can name. So, yeah.
That's a really good thing to have, I think it's important to have people there to guide you, right? Our biggest and greatest example is Christ himself, right? He always, it's one of my favorite verses, right? Like, even when, we are unfaithful, he is faithful because he can't be faithless. It's an incredible concept.
Yeah.
Especially because people, humans are they're faulty. And not one of us is perfect, but Christ is perfect. And so we have a perfect God who, we get to chase after.
Yeah.
Best example there could be.
I completely agree, man. Obviously, the best example of a leader in the Bible, and just leading by example, he was the perfect. Everything he did in the Bible, like, he's not going to ask us something that he didn't already do in the Bible. You can see that, time and time again throughout the Bible. We're called on this earth to serve others. You see Jesus serving people countless times throughout the Bible, so all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, but I think he was the perfect example of a man, of a leader, and of a, I guess, yeah, I don't know.
I agree. Yeah, no. I think one of Christ's, biggest lessons for us to take in and learn is having a servant heart, right? Because even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but he came to serve.
Exactly.
Right? Throughout all of the Gospels, what is he doing? Well, he's serving, right? Now, there's a really important part in that, and that's learning not only to pour out, but also, allow yourself to be poured into as well.
Yeah.
You see Jesus many times going into the wilderness, and praying to his Father, to our Father. And I think that really filled him up for sure and allowed him to do what he needed to do as far as the ministry goes. I think there's definitely something to that. And even in our daily lives, right? Pouring out, onto others, and then also allowing yourself to be poured into. That's something that is actually really difficult. Once you get past the surface of it, I think, at least for me, it's been kind of difficult because it's really easy, especially if this is like one of your love languages is acts of service. It's really easy to just keep pouring out, keep giving and giving and giving. And that's great. That's an amazing thing. But, once you kind of give everything you have, you run out of reserves because everybody has a limit. It's not a good place to be. And so you have to let yourself be poured into by others as well.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to bring that up at some point. So, my friend Talon was on the first episode of this podcast, and I'm pretty sure I said this quote on the podcast. I can't remember. It was a while ago. But one quote that he told me from one of his pastors that I have never forgotten and I will never forget is, you cannot pour into others publicly if you're not pouring into yourself privately. I'm never gonna forget that. And the main reason is because for so many years, I would because I like to do things for others. I like to serve others. That's just who I am. So, but for such a long time, I would do all this stuff for others, but I wasn't taking my personal time to grow in my faith. I wasn't actively reading the word or anything. Right. And so at the end of the day, I just found myself feeling empty and just drained and just like I have nothing left to give. And so, that's what's going to happen if you're just pouring and pouring and pouring and you're just not taking time to yourself to really grow in your faith personally. Because then also when you grow in your faith, God's going to reveal stuff to you that you can go share with others as well.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really great point. And I think coming to him every single day, is really important. It's something that I myself need to be much better at. Because so many times, the Lord will fill you up. He, unlike us, does not have a limit when it comes to giving, right? And so he's our source, right? And he is the living water. It's something that we always need,
right? For
sure.
Yeah. And so this Wednesday we had our last Bible study for the summer for the Catalyst dudes, and we really it was like a passing down the torch moment with me, Lane, and Seeley. I've had Lane on this podcast before, not Seeley yet, but I will at some point. I've talked to him about it. But anyways, we had a passing the torch moment. We really just tried to emphasize with the dudes leadership, and just how to go about that. But also, it was a really good night. But with some of the dudes that I think will step into the leadership roles, I told them, I said, you have to be able to, you have to be seeking a relationship with God in private. Because I'm that's something I got wrong for so many years. And I was you've got to make it a priority because it's just not going to work. And you're not going to be able to pour into these kids. And I told them, I said, these kids, they need someone. They need a leader. They need a mentor to look up to. So they need you guys. And I told them, and I was there are going to be days, you're exhausted. You don't want to, but it's what God calls you to do. And sometimes you just got to persevere through it. There'll always be rest at some point, but,
Well, I think they need somebody genuine as well. This is just a personal opinion, but I think you can absolutely tell when someone is as pursuing the Lord versus if they're not, you know. And then they're just kind of putting on a face, right?
I completely agree.
Because what do you want? What kind of example do you want to set for them, right? Do you want to be that face that, you know, you say all the right things and you do all the right things at church, you know, and then you go home and then you're doing all sorts of things that you shouldn't be, or, you know, let's say they see you in public, or like what kind of? That's not a good example. Not at all, right?
Yeah. And no, that's a very good point. And I think the more that I've, like, you know, started developing my faith and really been working on myself in private, the more I can tell, like, I don't want to sound cocky, but like I've been starting to see like who does and doesn't pour into themselves. You can kind of see through it sometimes with some people, I feel like. If that makes sense.
It does. Yeah. One thing that I've this is kind of not completely on the same topic, but I've been really thinking about it lately, is you know, as far as presenting the gospel goes, right? Something that I've had to really kind of learning to accept is you can, you know, you can present the truth to somebody, but you can't force them to accept it, and that's a really hard thing, right? That's probably the hardest thing about free will, right? Is that sometimes people choose no, at least in the moment, right? You know, and you can present them that, but
yeah,
you know,
sometimes all we're called to do is plant the seeds,
right?
And let God do the rest.
Absolutely.
You know, and sometimes it is our job to continue to be that light to them, but maybe God will send someone else along. You don't know. We don't know what He's going to do, but the least that we can do is plant the seeds, for sure. And
that's why it's like so important to be genuine, right? It's because if you're not being genuine, then, I mean, kind of like what I said earlier, what kind of example are you showing these other people, right?
Exactly.
I think that there is a large part of our generation that does not know the Lord. And, you know, I think that you can pick out a Christian without even asking him he's a Christian, you know, a lot of times anyway. You can tell. And I think genuineness goes right along with that.
Yeah, and to go along with that, a lot of people don't know the Lord, and then there's a lot of people that think they know the Lord too. But then
that's a scary thought too.
And that is
really scary.
In my opinion, I think it's harder to preach to those people than it is to preach to the ones that don't know the Lord.
Yeah.
Just because they think they're doing the right things. They think they're fine. You know what I'm saying?
And they think Christianity is going to church every week, right? Going to Sunday, going to, like, okay, I mean, you're participating in a lot of the, you know, the things that we do. But then again, right? I mean, if your heart is not after Christ, then, I mean, it's pretty much all for nothing.
Yeah. I want to say, add on something you said. You said a lot of people think Christianity is just going to church.
Right.
And I think that's what American Christianity has become.
I think that's exactly what.
And so so I think, because we're not called, nowhere in the Bible does it say that we need to nowhere in the Bible does it say we need to be a Christian. It says we need to pursue a relationship with Jesus. And so, you know, America has just twisted the church and twisted this to where it's like, you know, American Christianity, all it is, you know, you go to church on Sunday, you know, you put a smile on and you go home and you move on with the rest of your week. But the Bible says you need to pursue a relationship with Jesus every single day. Yeah. You need to take up your cross daily. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you know, I won't get into this discussion unless you want to. I know it's not that kind of podcast, but, you know, I'm a little strange in the fact that I have a real interest in politics and things, but, you know, I think that's a real problem, you know, with conservatism today, right? Is that a lot of times they'll, you know, put on this real big show of cultural, you know, American Christianity. And going to church is not inherently bad, right? No, it's a good thing.
Right?
I'm not
to church and you know, the 10 Commandments are great, and I think that's a good thing, but at the end of the day, I think what's most important is, you know, broadcasting the idea of having a relationship with Christ rather than just are you going to church? Are you doing your part in all of this and being a good American Christian? Well, no, that's more cultural. Whereas I think having a relationship with Christ is what's most important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not getting after anybody for going to church. I go to church every week. I think we need to be prioritizing church every week.
Well, that's kind of selfish too, right? I mean, it's self-centered anyway, because it's like, oh, look at me, I'm doing my part, I'm going to church, I'm a good person.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. A lot of the Bible talks about how we can never be good enough, and that's not. I mean, that's our situation. I mean, that's where we're at. So, I mean, Christ died for all of us, right? Because we're all flawed. Right? Humanity has rejected God, and so He sent Christ down to die for all of our sins, right? And Christ becomes the bridge. So now we can have a relationship with God again through Christ because of His sacrifice. And so, yeah, no, it's interesting for sure. This whole cultural thing. It's weird. It's very bipolarized today. Very polarized for sure. It's either you are completely right or completely left, and we see people on the other side of the aisle as our enemy, and I don't think that's the case. Now there are issues where I think that we as Christians absolutely have to make a stand on. But that does not mean we have to hate the people. Right?
I mean, we're called to love our enemies.
Right.
I completely agree with all that. That's good stuff, dude.
Thanks.
So, yeah. So just getting back into the leadership topic, I just kind of want to talk about serving. And I'll read some scripture, Matthew 20:26 through 28. It must not be like that among you. On the contrary, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first among you must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to serve, but not just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many. So, like we said, Jesus, the ultimate example of a leader, came down, served others. I think I would say a good percentage of leadership is serving others. Would you say that like at least 75%, if not more, is just serving others and prioritizing others' needs above your own?
I would say it's a part of it for sure. Yeah. I think that a large part of being a leader, I do believe in leading side by side a lot of the time. I mean, especially like in the workplace, right? I think it's different in like in a father type role. I think that a lot of time that's, that involves more guidance. But as far as leading in the workplace, I think side by side is really important, right? I mean, for me, right? If you want to talk about respect, I think I would respect, somebody in a position of authority a whole lot greater, who's right there in the fire with you and who is participating and who is helping and who is working, than somebody who is, not doing any of those things, just telling you what to do, right?
Exactly.
And that's not good leadership, right?
Yeah, no, it's not.
I think a lot of that's serving by, doing that by example. But service is absolutely a big part of being a leader as well.
Yeah.
Serving others.
And so I know you're a history major, so you'll know more about this than me, but Alexander the Great, so wasn't he, like, he didn't ask people to do something he wouldn't do. Am I correct about that? That was him, right?
Well,
or there was somebody. And
I don't have my degree yet, so I hope nobody judges me too harshly, but
I can cut this out if we need to.
Well, from what I do know about Alexander the Great, I mean, not exactly a perfect human being by far. He made some great decisions as far as his war campaigns, and he also made some not so great decisions as far as
I'm gonna pause this real quick.
yeah, no, he made some not really great decisions, and then he made some great decisions. But from what I do know about him, yes, he was one to absolutely lead by example.
Okay.
And he was right there with his men. And I heard a story about when he was crossing a desert and he was running out of water, or they were all about to be out of water. He took his water canister and he dumped it on the ground, not to waste, not to just, basically to waste the water, but to symbolize to everybody else that he didn't, he was right there with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that story is completely true or not, but that's what
I think I've heard that same story.
It's I mean,
yeah. I don't want to get too much into Alexander the Great. I just wanted to like pull that characteristic out, because that leadership style also led to a lot of success, because he never lost a battle either. So
there are a lot of really great examples of people throughout history who have, absolutely led by example. For sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to kind of pull that characteristic out, and I'm like, that's something that we should be doing, because I think a lot of people get the term leadership confused, and they're like, I'm in charge, you do what I say, like, this is what we're going to do, it's whatever I want.
Right.
But leadership is like, hey, like, how can I serve you? How can, like, I'm right here with you, like, we're going to go through this together. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and I think also, I think it's good for a leader not to be completely closed off as far as like recommendations, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's very, I think it's a proverb where it talks about how, instruct a wise man and he becomes all the wiser, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to that. So, helping, that's a really interesting concept for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Being open to suggestions, right? Not closing yourself off and being prideful in a sense, right? And that can go for anything.
Yeah.
I think pride is that's one of the most, honestly, I mean, personally, it's a scary thing for sure. It's something that, we really try to avoid for sure. This is not good. I think being humble is important.
Right.
But yeah, being open to advice, right? Not closing yourself off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people just have a hard time like accepting criticism nowadays. Yeah. And it's like if you're like criticizing, but like in a loving way, to where you're like, hey man, like, I know you can do better in this area or whatever. Like, as long as it's coming from like a loving point of view, I think we need to be very open to criticism and just being able to fix ourselves and grow, because that's how we're going to grow.
Yeah. No, I think you're exactly right.
So, yeah.
I think a lot of people, misunderstand criticism as a personal attack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's constructive, then it's good.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a difference between constructive and non-constructive for sure.
Yeah. I mean,
you're just going around insulting people.
If you're just like,
yeah,
that's not what we want.
But it can be hard sometimes too, to take that criticism, in any sense. I mean, I think I don't know. It's gotten a little bit harder, I think, as I get a little older. But
yeah,
it's still, I mean, it's very humbling every single time. Every time, there's a lesson to be learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like no matter what we do, there's always like an area to learn and grow in,
Absolutely.
For everything.
Yeah, no, it's, if you're not learning, right, then, I mean, you're basically at a standstill, and it's never good to be at a standstill, right? Because that's not what we're not called to be at a standstill, right? what is a walk? Well, you're moving, right? You're not staying in the same place.
Exactly.
So, if you're not learning, you're not growing, you're not walking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just wasting your time, man.
It's an awful place to be at a stance.
No, I completely agree. But yeah. You got anything else to add on to any of that?
No, I think you made a lot of really great points. I think that was really good,
Yeah. So I was curious. So I looked up like the dictionary definition of leadership just because I wanted to see what it said, and it said that leadership is the action of leading a group of people or an organization. Very vague, doesn't really tell you a lot. And I'm like, well, I just really want to, find some verses and just see what the Bible has to say about it. And, from the Bible's perspective, leadership is stewarding one's God-given gifts, abilities, and opportunities and using them to influence and serve others. So that got me thinking, a lot of people, obviously, the dictionary, man-made, the Bible, written by God. And so I think it's very important where we, get, if we're trying to define characteristics and stuff, be careful where you get your information from.
Sure, yeah,
because
absolutely.
If we're going to the dictionary to get your definition, it's like, yeah, you'll get a definition, vague, doesn't really tell you much, and it's just kind of, maybe it can be like misleading too. But then you go to the Bible and it's like, no, this is like what God calls us to do.
That's really interesting because language is subjective, right? Its meanings change over time. Whereas, the word, the meanings do not change. God's word is eternal.
Exactly.
It's very clear.
And they're always coming out with, new dictionaries and, updating them and all this stuff. But, this hasn't been updated since, 90 BC? I don't know. How long? Not 90 AD or something like that. When was Revelation written?
That's a really great question. I don't know if I could tell you the answer to that.
I think it might be in here.
I think that the Gospels were written within like a 30-year span, though. The events of Christ's death and resurrection, for sure. I don't think I could tell you Revelation, though.
My Bible says around AD 95. So
okay, wow.
So it really hasn't been updated till about 100 years after Christ's death.
Is that 60? Because he died in like 30 AD, right? Or yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. The timing is a little strange.
Yeah.
It doesn't AD starts at his birth and not after.
Oh, does it start? Okay.
His death. It's a little weird. It's one of those really weird things.
Yeah. Anyways, so it's really.
I think I'm right. I might be wrong about that. I think that's the case, though.
Anyways, obviously thousands of years hasn't been updated.
Very old. Yes.
Very old. Yeah. Very reliable.
Right. And we have the the task, if you will, of interpretation, right? So while unlike language, it's not subjective, we do deal with interpretation. And I think in a lot of places the Bible is very, very clear. And then I think in other places, it's a little more hard to understand, but that's where the Holy Spirit comes in, right?
Exactly.
It's because he gives us understanding. And I think that, we live in such an interesting day and time, Jace, where we have complete access to almost every translation available via our cell phones. And so we're unlike anybody else in history in that regard. We have complete access to God's word, and we can read it whenever we want, wherever we want. We live in a country where we can do that. And yet fewer people are reading it than ever before. Now, what does that say about, our society, right? That's awful.
Well, obviously this technology can be used for great things, but most people aren't using it for great things. And we see that over and over again. But something I've learned just throughout the past couple of years is, I used to read the Bible on my phone. And, it's not bad. It's fine. But there is just so much more power in just holding the Bible, just reading it off the page, flipping the pages. Like, there's legit just so much more power in this book. Like, I mean, I like the phone, I like to, take pictures of verses and post them on Instagram because it's cleaner than just like taking a picture on the so like there's good uses for the phone.
Sure.
But I feel like when I'm trying to really grow and understand what God is saying here, I like to go to the physical word of the Bible.
That's interesting. That's an interesting idea. I mean, I think I definitely agree. And I think that there are just different ways to read and understand. And what I mean by that is you can take let's take I don't know. I'll just flip to a random. Okay, First Corinthians, right? I mean that's a letter to the Corinthians, right? So you can either study it chapter by chapter, and there's a lot of value in that, picking out little pieces and really trying to understand what that means. But then there's also reading it as it was intended as a letter, and that really gives you a much better full perspective of the letter itself and who it was to. For me, one thing that's been really, really helpful has been, listening to the audio, like the audio Bible, for example. I think that's been great for me. You go to work and you can fly through books. I mean, you can fly through
absolutely
half of the New Testament, in one morning. So, I mean, it works out really well. It's just, it's different forms of reading for sure.
Oh, I mean, there's plenty of great uses for the online Bible.
I mean, what is a cell phone anyways, right? I mean, this is nothing, it's nothing more than a tool, really. I mean, a very complex tool.
Yeah, can be used for good things or can be used for disaster, man.
Yeah.
It's just however the user is using it, man.
Right. Yeah, it's very true.
So it's definitely great, but at the same time, it can just be very destructive.
Yeah, I often feel like we have way too much power in our hands when it comes to cell phones. Like we can access anything and everything pretty much, and it's not. I don't know. It's not good. I don't know if I like having that much power.
Well, and AI is changing the game.
I know
I don't know how much you really know about this. I haven't talked to you about this, but I've talked to some people. Just had some discussions and stuff, but AI can make it to where you can see anything and everything your imagination can take you. You type it in, boom, there's an image.
Yeah.
However far your imagination can go. And so, that can be scary. That can be really scary.
It's definitely concerning for sure. Yeah, I think that where I stand, I just don't like technology anywhere near the human body. I mean, if you know, I'm good on all of that. So I don't think there should be, it's just the way that our world is going though. You can see it before our very eyes, right? I mean, we've gone from, cards we've gone from like checks to cards to slide, chips, tap. Eventually, I mean,
now it's on the phones.
You see, I feel like our world is like a moving chessboard almost, and we're watching these pieces move into place, and that's on a macro and a micro scale, right? So, you want to talk about macro, like look at Israel. I mean, there's just a lot going on with that situation, and you kind of see pieces moving, and you're like, wow, I think that we are moving towards. I do believe that we are in the end times, and I do believe that those pieces are continuing to move and continuing to be more set into place for Christ's return. And that's honestly a good thing.
It is a good thing.
We want Christ to return. Absolutely, that is good.
It's only scary if you don't know where you stand.
Right. For us, that's the best thing. But unfortunately for the unbeliever, it is
the worst thing.
Very terrible thing. It's a very terrifying thing, is what I should say.
Yeah. I mean, we're in the day and age. We're starting to see all these prophecies getting fulfilled in Revelation, and obviously, I don't remember what verse it says, but somewhere in here it says, we won't know the day or time. And I mean, it could be hundreds of years after all these prophecies are fulfilled that Christ comes back.
Right.
Like we don't know, but
Only the Father knows.
But we know that when these things are happening, like it'll only happen after all these things happen.
Season, right? And you'll know the season.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So, but yeah, it's been interesting to see.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, and it makes you kind of think, and I hope this isn't too political, but it makes you think, like, where is the U.S. going to be? Is it going to even exist? Are we going to? I mean, there's just so much unknown when it comes to stuff like that. You're like, man, I hope that our country is around.
Yeah.
At least in my life, and my kids' lifetime. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeesh.
Well,
it's kind of a scary thought.
Yeah, this is episode 9 of my podcast, so some of these podcasts get jumbled, so I don't remember who I say some of these stuff with.
Okay.
But I feel like, I said that, in Revelation it does say that a great nation will fall. And I truly believe, I've talked with Pastor Josh about this, and, he said that he doesn't think there's ever been a greater nation than America.
Where does it say that?
Somewhere in Revelation.
Okay.
And I'm not 100% sure the verse.
Pull out our handy dandy tool here, right? I mean,
see, it can be good, guys. It can be good.
Yeah.
Not always, but.
Yeah. Okay. So, let's see if I can. Do you have like a translation favorite?
Oh no, I don't have a favorite. This one that I read in is the Christian Standard.
Okay, I've heard so many good things about that one.
I love it, man. But yeah, no, I don't have a favorite.
I really like the English Standard. I mean, I don't know. I think that there are so many different good translations where you can, get a real true sense of what's going on. Who's really good to talk about that is, it really just in general about like anything theology is Mr. Carl Yoder.
Really?
He is the best when it comes to like Christian ethics, theology.
I believe it.
I mean, he has a real, interest and passion for it, and it's really cool to get to see him, watch his gears turn when it comes to that. It's pretty cool. I mean, really both Carl and Kyle, but, I've had, I'm around Carl more as he's my roommate, but
right.
Yeah, no, it's...
I bet y'all have some cool discussions.
Oh, yeah, no, it's
just because y'all are roommates and stuff.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Way wiser than me, for sure. He has so much Bible knowledge, it's pretty wild. I can't find it, man. I thought I was going to be able to find it. I don't see it. That's okay. We'll have to reconvene on that. I'll
see if I can find it, and I'll put it in the description down below. But yeah. Anyways, it says it somewhere. But yeah, I'm just like, that makes me think, like, is America going to fall? And with the way that we're going, it's not looking good.
And what's interesting too is like, yeah, I'm sorry, this podcast is going to be very like, not political, but I'm just going to say a lot of that stuff. I think it's really, a lot of people are putting, their faith in the election as far as, what candidate they want in office, right? But, I mean, it's one election. I mean, we always look forward to that. It's just bam, bam. But is it really going to change a whole lot as far as people's mindsets? Like, sure, you can, argue about the economy all you want, but as far as people's mindsets, having a conservative in office it doesn't change a whole lot except for the policies, not their mindsets.
Right.
And, a lot of people are very angry and upset with the Supreme Court system right now, and they want change as far as that goes. And it's very clear that they're conservative, and so it's like where are people's mindsets at? I think that's what's most important.
Yeah.
And I need, honestly, it's probably something to discuss with like Josh or Matt or even Brett, someone, just to talk more about this idea. But like, shoving Christianity down people's throats, right? So there are some who believe, that the Ten Commandments should absolutely be in the school system, the public school system. Okay, I don't disagree with that. I think that's not bad. I mean, it's the Ten Commandments, right? I mean, that's
Of course.
that's God's law, right? But can you just, I mean, are we just going to try and shove down a bunch of, our Old Testament rules? I mean, those rules have a purpose and a place for a reason, right? I think they're absolutely important. And the Ten Commandments are completely valid, even in the New Covenant, which we are under. However, should we be more focused on preaching the gospel, the good news, which Christ has come and died and was resurrected from the dead?
Yeah.
So that we might be saved and saved from our sin and our brokenness. There is healing and sickness has been defeated, and illness and poverty, and like Jesus has overcome it all, right? And so I think if we're going to preach any part of Christianity, it needs to be Christ.
Right.
Not that the Ten Commandments aren't important, but I mean, I don't think that you should just be like, okay, here are the rules. Don't break the rules, without presenting the gospel, without presenting Christ, because then what you're doing, right, is you're presenting Christianity as just that, like just the religious aspect of it. Like, okay, you go to church, you go to worship, you do your good Samaritan part, and then you like, that's just, it's kind of like works, right? Well,
you're not saved by works, but by faith.
We're not saved by works. But faith requires works, right? Because, faith without works is dead. They're good, but what I'm trying to say is, if we're going to teach the Ten Commandments, I think that we need to teach Christ as well. I think that's absolutely, we should be presenting the gospel to the youth. That's what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely agree. And obviously, I think the gospel is the most important part of the Bible. I mean, the whole thing's important, but obviously the gospel, the eyewitness account of Jesus came, died, resurrected from the dead. And so I had Pastor Curtis on this podcast, and we actually talked, not very much, but we talked briefly about the Ten Commandments, and I completely agree with everything you're saying. But one thing he did say that I also agree with is it's a step in the right direction.
I agree. Yeah.
So we're moving towards the right direction. Now, is there more to be done? Like you said, absolutely. And do we need to be presenting the gospel? I absolutely agree with that.
Right.
But at the same time, it's better than nothing at all.
Sure.
Or just going the other direction. Yeah. So I agree with everything you said, though. Absolutely.
It shows like what are God's standards, right? At least, the foundations of it, for sure, which I think are good I think it's good that, kids know that, but
yeah,
I think both parts are important.
For sure. I agree.
Yeah.
A good mixture of both, man.
Yeah. Well, and what does Jesus say, right? Like, follow my commandments. So I think that's really important, for sure.
I completely agree. I'm glad that you brought that up and explained that very well. So,
thanks.
Yeah, man, that's good stuff, dude. But yeah,
good questions.
Another talking point about leadership? Are there any difficulties that you've found with being a leader? Any troubles or hardships that you've found while trying to lead others?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I've got a really good one. So I think that you can really get in like this mindset of I have to be perfect, right? Like I can't make a mistake. I have to, be all of these things and not mess up and do all of this, and you put so much pressure on yourself, that when you actually do fall short, it's like you just completely fall apart.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something I'm still learning to do for sure, but not put so much pressure on yourself as a leader, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
we all fall short, right? And so, yeah, and also being able to forgive yourself, when you mess up. I definitely struggle with that for sure as far as, forgiveness goes. I think for me, it's somewhat easy to forgive others, but, forgiving yourself, that's a completely different battle.
Way harder, in my
Way
opinion.
harder, way harder.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just learning to not put so much pressure on yourself and, give yourself grace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And give others grace as well, especially like the leaders in your life, right?
Yeah.
So it goes hand in hand for sure.
That's good, man.
Yeah.
I agree. I think, it's so easy just to try to like look perfect and act perfect when you are like in that leadership position in front of those people.
Right. And also like you can also be a little self-centered in that too. It's like, oh, how can I be a better leader? How can I do more? How can I serve? It's like me. Like, okay, well, try just to, I mean, I know it's directed towards other people, but in a way you're still kind of focusing on yourself.
Yeah.
So, maybe don't focus so much on how do I be better and just, give yourself grace when you mess up and truly just focus on the situations at hand.
All right. Yeah. That's good, dude. Yeah. It's easy to, get caught up with that mindset. Like it really is. And I found myself doing that. And it can be hard to just like sometimes be vulnerable with those people and just be like, hey, like I have messed up, and this is how I messed up.
That's a good point too. Yeah. Vulnerability is interesting because I think you have to just know when to be vulnerable. And I'm not saying that vulnerability is a bad thing. I'm just saying that, like, what kind of company are you going to surround yourself to be vulnerable to? Mm-hmm. Right. So, like, I don't think it would be appropriate, right, to take a leader and for them to be completely vulnerable. At least completely, right? So, like, let's say a parent, right? I don't think it's necessarily a good thing for them to be completely vulnerable when it comes to their struggles, right? I mean, especially with their kids, I think that's something you can be vulnerable with people in circles of similar age or mentors, and so that way you're getting advice, right?
Yeah.
Like a father, I don't think that a father should necessarily, unload all of their problems to, especially the kids, but I think it's important to be vulnerable with your wife, but
Of course.
that's a different thing entirely. And choosing when, especially too, is important. So just knowing your company is what I'm trying to say.
You got to be able to pick and choose, and it's just honestly that's more common sense than anything. It's like, all right, what company am I around? Like, discipline. It's a must-have. I mean, if you're not you can tell when kids aren't disciplined, especially working. You taught at Connection Kids for a while. I'm about to teach my last Sunday this week, but
Yeah.
you can tell when kids aren't being disciplined, man, and it shows.
Right.
So it's very important.
Yeah. That's a proverb as well. I need to be better at like remembering exactly where things are, not just general areas. I'm really good about general areas, but
Yeah.
man, that's proverbs, right? Like, don't spare the rod. Spare the rod, you hate your child, or something like that. Maybe that's a little, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, no, I mean, as far as discipline goes, discipline is something that's very important, not just to, being an adult, but I think especially as a man, right? Like discipline it's something that you need to learn, and it's something that is good throughout your entire life.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree. Still, 19 years old, still learning from my parents, still getting disciplined, still a lot to learn.
yeah,
Obviously like disciplined in different ways. They're not spanking me anymore or anything, but like, it's like real life discipline.
Yeah, well, you're about to enter a new stage where it's not so much, discipline, but it's more of guidance. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's less of like, hey, it's less corrective and more redirecting.
Right.
And so, which is really good. I think that because I went through like just 3 or 4 years where I was like just absolutely a terrible child. My parents just were like constantly on me 24/7. And thank you for that because I needed it very badly. But because of that, now I can kind of not only step into this new stage of where they're mentoring me and redirecting when I need it, but they're also, like I would definitely consider myself to be friends with my parents now, which is both. It's great. It's a little strange, but I think that goes away. But it's great because now, I'm seeing my parents' interest in a new way, and this whole adulting thing. It's cool, but it's also, I mean, I won't lie to you. The responsibility. I mean, it's good, right?
Yeah.
I mean, one thing I was always taught, right? It's like more freedom, more responsibility. It's how it works. You learn to drive, you get a job. You get a degree, you get a job.
You get a bigger job.
Yeah, pretty much.
You get a real job, not just Schlotsky's, right, Christian?
Make more money, more stress, or potentially more stress, more responsibility for sure.
More responsibility.
Yeah, I know. So
more money, more problems.
That's crazy how that works. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree, bro. That's good.
Yeah, you're talking to me on a high right now, as in, like I just finished school yesterday as far as summer school. So I'm like, man, life is great.
You're feeling good?
I feel great, man. I worked today and I got some, days off coming. So yeah,
nice.
life's great right now.
Yeah, you're feeling good. You're not always feeling this good.
Oh man, school's about to start again.
Yeah.
But it's good.
It's gonna be good, man.
Yeah.
You're almost done. You're getting through it.
Getting through. Yeah. Yeah, no. It's been really cool, this week or this week. This summer I found myself a girlfriend and so that's been really just the greatest thing, and it's really cool, but it's also I'm already learning like a lot.
Yeah.
So it's cool.
That's good.
Yeah, I think that we're, starting to get out of the very initial, exciting phase of, oh, this is brand new. And we're kind of starting to get into like real life now. And so it's definitely a change, but
picking up a little bit,
Yeah. No, I'm insanely excited for the future, and I'm excited for everybody to meet her. And so, it's been really great.
Yeah, when I came over to your house the other day, Carter's like, "Hey, you gotta come, man. Christian's wife is gonna be there."
Well,
oh man.
I know it's still pretty fresh and new, but we'll see where it goes. But I think just stay the course and we'll see, man.
Trust the Lord, man.
That's right.
He's gonna
just trust Him.
Everything will go how it should.
Absolutely.
As long as you just stand firm in your faith.
Well, and a lot of people, they tend to think, and this is something that I used to think a lot, is like, a relationship fixes all your problems. Yeah, right. If anything, you might add. If you're doing it wrong, I don't know. But they're definitely. I say this as like somebody who's been it for like 3 months, but so like just starting still. But, like they're it's. It's great. It's really cool, but your life doesn't end. You still go to work and you still have stress and life, but it is really it's a great change for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that relationship is so important, and I think that God designed us for that. So
absolutely, man.
It's I'm like starting these new seasons, so it's been it's been a good summer for sure.
That's exciting to see, bro.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I'm excited to start my new season, man.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good.
I think the college is going to be so great for you, man. I mean,
I'm ready for it.
yeah, college is so fun, especially like finding the right circle of people. I think is definitely important. You know,
Top priority, man.
top priority for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm gonna be.
Maybe Lauren can kind of help you out with that. You know, like
Yeah.
direct you to the right people and stuff.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at just being able to scout out the right people.
Okay,
That's something I had to learn because for a while, I was with the wrong crowd and we were dummies, but you figure it out, you learn, and then you're able to kind of go from there. So,
Yeah.
but I've definitely grown and being able to see the right people and stuff. So,
Yeah. That's good.
but yeah, as long as they build me up in my faith and I build them up in theirs, and that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Goes back to like having leaders in your life. I think that's definitely important. I think you need to make sure that you have good, not only role models, but good role models to kind of take notes from for sure. People who have done at least 1 or 2 years or 3 years, or because I have no idea what your college is going to be like. It probably will be very, at least somewhat different from WT. That's not bad. It's just it'll be different, and
It will be.
and you get to go and branch out and and grow even more, and so it's a good thing. But
Yeah.
it's important to have those people for sure.
Yeah. It's starting to become surreal, man, because I got all these friends leaving right now. I'm one of the last ones actually leaving and moving
I was
in.
gonna say, I was like, wow, what day do you leave? Like tomorrow?
Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
At the time of this recording, Tuesday.
Tuesday.
So 4 days? What's today? Friday? 4 days?
Okay.
Dang, that's actually starting to hit it.
You
It's a
ready?
hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm ready. That's crazy. It's like snuck up on me.
It'll just be like long camp with school.
Yeah, with a bunch of school and stress and homework and
Yeah. Do you think you'll come back?
like come back as in live in Amarillo again, or
Yeah. You think you'll branch? What do you think?
I don't know, dude. That's something I really don't know, and I don't think I'll know until probably after I graduate college. Just because, like, I don't know what the Lord has in store. I know that at least for now, my time here in Amarillo is done, like living wise, and it's time to go to a new place, go to Abilene, do some ministry there. But as of right now, my time here is done for now, at least.
Yeah.
Obviously not completely, like, still keep in touch with all you guys and
Right.
come back and visit and all that stuff, but like living wise, at least for now.
Yeah. Well, and that's, let the Lord lead, right? So,
Yeah,
if you're called to something, then you need to answer the call.
exactly.
So,
And then, just trusting him to provide me with a job wherever that could be. So, I trust that he'll provide me with a good opportunity for a good job, and I don't know where that'll be yet, but if it's in Amarillo, that's great. I love Amarillo. If it's in Abilene, if it's in Oklahoma, wherever it is.
yeah, man.
So, just depends. And just, trusting that, just continuing my ministry no matter where I go. That's all you can do.
Yeah, man. The Lord leads us. We all have our own path, right? So, it's important for you to follow where the Lord has you. And if that's in Amarillo, that's great. And if that is in, Dumas, Texas, wherever you end up,
Oh, man.
there's so many good places.
I hope it's not Dumas.
Yeah.
Not the biggest fan of that place.
I'm not a big city person, and I think the Lord knows that. And I don't think I'm called right now to live in,
Dallas.
Austin, Denver, Dallas, Fort Worth, any of that. I'm just not. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm right there with you,
Yeah.
dude. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
Why do you think I'm going to Abilene, man?
Yeah.
It's a little smaller than Amarillo. Like,
It's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a big city person either.
It's fair.
The only time I like to go to those big cities is for like sports games and stuff, you know.
Trips, yeah.
Trips, sports games.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool things to do, but
If I'm there longer than a week, it's like, nah, get me out of here.
yeah, I know it's funny. Like we complain about the traffic here, and like you go to
Dude,
Dallas, and it's
so
like,
bad.
It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean,
But 5 o'clock traffic in Amarillo, man, sucks.
it's not. It's getting worse.
It's getting worse.
It's like the roads are getting worse. The cars are getting more. Yeah, everybody. I feel like there's no medium in Amarillo though. It's like you have people that like on the highway are going like 85, and then you have like 55. Like there's no
in between.
Like, man, what? I'm usually the 85.
I was about to say, I
no,
am
I'm just
too.
kidding. No. I mean, I like.
Do we need to cut that?
I'm like a cool like. I don't know. I never speed. All right.
All I'm gonna say is I cannot stand being that 55. I can't stand going places slow.
I think that it's important to follow the law, and you just do that. So yeah, dude,
Chris just trying to take back what he said.
incriminate Sealy real quick. There was one day where he like flew past me on the highway, like at least 85, like something crazy. Not like crazy, but no, definitely calling Sealy out. I think he just has like a foot condition or something where like pushes down the pedal a little more. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, it's one of those foot conditions. Yeah.
You know, it just kind of happens.
I've still got that picture when I was next to you at that stoplight and you were like halfway in the road.
Oh, dude, I was I mean,
I might have to post that on the Insta as long as with this episode announcement.
the problem is like, you know, those lines change at like the worst second, and like just to where you have like, you know, not enough time to go, but
not enough time to slow down.
And like, no, man.
I was dying laughing, man. I was like, what is this dude doing?
It's just like, oh, I hate that it happens. It only happens like, of course, like when there's somebody around where you know or something.
You know them, and you know they're gonna take a picture, and
like, whatever.
It happens.
It happens.
That's hilarious, dude.
Yeah.
That was so funny.
Yeah. Do you have anybody in your family that's like a crazy driver?
Lauren's the worst driver. I'm not gonna lie. Well, I haven't ridden with her in a while. I know, you know, I'm gonna call my mom out right now. She might be hearing us right now, or she'll listen to this later, but a lot of people say she's not a good driver when they ride with her. I guess like I've gotten used to it for the most part, but there people are like, I'm scared to ride with your mom. I was like, that's fair. But then at the same time, Lauren's not the best driver either. So, and you know, ever since I got my license at 16, my mom's like, you're a better driver than Lauren. Just straight up. she would tell me, I'm like, am I a better driver? She's like, yeah, you're a better driver.
Well, I like to throw Carter or Kaylee under the bus and say, oh, dude, Carter's the worst. But I have a worse record than both of them, so I can't really say anything.
I've heard some stuff about Kaylee's driving.
What? No way. What is...
I don't know, man.
I've only been in the car a couple times with her, so I don't really... I mean, I think she's alright. I mean, there was... Okay, so have I told you at the time that when I was 17 and my car was in the shop, and I drive a Tahoe for people who don't know. So big black car, and you know, it's big and it's slow and it's loud and it's great. But you know, when you get in this, you know, my dad drives like this Hyundai, right?
Yeah.
And man, that car. So fast.
Right.
You know, my car has like a 0 to 60 in like half a minute, whereas like that car, I mean, it'll move. And so, you know, you get into this little car that goes fast and you're 17. It's just an awful combo. And I remember getting off Schlosky's or whatever, and like, dude, dinner was on the stove. Like, I was ready to be home. And
I feel that.
You know, you're just like weaving through, just being an idiot. And I ended up sideswiping somebody.
Oh, wow.
I like totaled their car. I think when I hit them so hard, because like what I did wrong was I didn't check my my blind spot. Like I just looked at the mirror really briefly and then like whipped it over, and I think I hit their car so hard that I snapped their rear axle. And because it was like a '90s car, it like was totaled. And like the guy obviously loved his car, and he's like yelling at me and stuff. And I felt so bad, but like the Elantra had like a little dent or whatever. I was like, oh, dang.
Sorry.
I felt so bad. Yeah, no, when you hit the wheel too hard now, it scrapes. It goes like it scrapes and stuff. It's not good, but
Oh my gosh.
just learning lessons. So I have the worst record, and I feel bad about it. But
Yeah. I've just heard it from Carter. He's like, yeah, Kaylee, not the best driver. That's just what he's told me. And then
Carter just says he just probably just say
I don't know.
Carter
But then
gotta.
I heard that I think I was talking to Bridger, and he's like, we were just driving around. I think it was in the neighborhood, and there's this pallet of wood just sitting in the middle of the road. And he tells her to, just what's the word? Drive where it goes in between your towers.
Yeah.
What's that word?
Like
You know what I'm talking about.
on the undercarriage, like put it like. What do you mean?
Like
Drive. It's
like so. Here's the pallet of wood, and like the tires. Like just drive.
just drive like in the middle of it, so
Right.
you don't run over.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a word for that. I can't think of it. But yeah,
Okay.
and he tells her just drive in the middle of that, and you know what I'm saying?
She just completely.
yeah, just completely smoked it. That's
No, I mean, it's okay.
that's the only story I've heard. That's all I know. And then
There.
I was just saying that just because that's what Carter has said. He's like, yeah, not the greatest, but
Yeah, there was okay. So I guess if we're gonna go there was one. I mean, so like she just got her license, and I'm not. She actually is. She did really good with most of her. Like it's like she passed the test on the first try and everything. But she was doing the online or whatever,
Right.
the online school. She wasn't doing like the where the
Roadrunner.
So yeah, so she she got a little behind because of cheer and school and orchestra, all of her things. And so like I think they were just catching up a little bit, and I remember getting in the car mistakenly once, and mom just completely yelling at her. And I love it. He was just like, all right, well. It's just one of those things where
Yeah.
you just get. How's it going? What's up, guys? Good. It's just crazy. So,
That's funny,
yeah, driving. Yeah. How did we get talking about driving?
I don't know, but it's kind of funny. I got
Lane tried to race. Okay, we're calling out Lane.
Kitty.
Lane Kinney. Calling out Lane.
Episode 4, guys.
Yeah.
That's the line we're talking about.
Because that boy tried to challenge me to a race.
Did you smoke him?
I didn't race. He was like, well, okay, first off, one, he challenged me to a race. And two, he didn't even say go. He just said race, and then he just he just took off. I was like, you didn't even give me a chance to I was like starting my car with him. I was like, dude, what?
Oh,
have you had Matt on yet?
No, not yet.
Talk about Matt Stripe.
Matt's
I
driving.
love Matt.
Oh my gosh, it's
Sometimes, okay.
okay.
We gotta talk about the speed
Okay.
bump coming back from camp, right before the church.
Which camp was it? Last year's?
It's like church camp. Yeah, like last year church camp.
That I wasn't at that one.
In the church van. Just and you see, when you see a bump, you should slow down. It's the only time in my life where I've been in the car where he saw the bump and he stepped on the gas. I was like, oh god.
Okay.
The kids hit the ceiling.
So do you remember?
It's awesome.
Do you remember at the church at Bonham?
Really helped.
Do you remember at the church at Bonham when the staff would have to park over at that school? Do you remember that? And then there would be an Uber, or Uber driver is what we call it, and it was mainly Matt. And do you remember when he would drive that little bus? And there's all those speed bumps.
Yeah.
That man would go at least 60 miles an hour over those speed bumps, and we just boom. It's like, do you remember that?
Yeah. That's wild. That's honestly.
And then I remember he was doing it one time in Bill DeBose, his new car, super nice, and he was hoovering, and he's burning the tires. He's doing all this. Matt.
We're gonna have to cut this.
He's just doing all this stuff.
He's a good driver.
He's
he's so good that
he can do dumb stuff. And
he's like a professional. That's what it is. He's a professional.
I think that's what we go with. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It's cool.
Oh man.
That's funny.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's about time we wrap this up.
Yeah,
my computer's at 1%, and we gotta.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well.
So, any closing remarks?
How long do you think you got before it dies?
A couple minutes.
Couple minutes.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find it really quick. I'll just whip it out. Let me see here.
Should have charged it. Completely forgot. Normally I'm good about that, but it's all right.
Okay. So this is one of my favorite verses, and it's something I truly, take to heart.
Let's hear it.
Let's see here. Okay. It's Ecclesiastes 9:10. It says, "Whatever your hand finds to do it with your might. For there is no work or thought or knowledge or wisdom in Sheol to which you are going." And, I think a lot of that really is whatever you set out to do, do it 100%. I think that is so important
Completely agree.
in life. It's really throughout life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you decide to do something, put all of your energy and effort towards it. You don't have to do anything, right? I don't think anybody likes somebody who just, does something halfway and then quits, halfway through, right?
I agree.
We're called to finish the race, right? And, you can apply that to all sorts of things, but yeah.
I completely agree. That's good stuff, dude.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
I don't have anything to add on to that, but that's really good, man. I agree.
Chase, I appreciate you for having me on. This has been super cool.
I'm going to pray us out and we'll get going.
Absolutely.
All right. Lord, I thank you for this day. Lord, thank you for bringing Christian out here so we can just speak your word and spread your wisdom, Lord. And yeah, I pray that you help this next generation of leaders. I pray that they'll step into that role, and I pray that they'll go at it and that they'll, do it 100% like Christian was saying, Lord, that they'll do it, just chase it with all their heart, God. I thank you for all the many blessings, Lord, and I pray that you just give us safety on the way out of here. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you all for watching this episode, and yeah, just stay tuned for the next episode.
Cool. Yeah. See you.